Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of J Bros Cooking, and today we are making one of John's favorites, classics. I don't know, I'll let John explain.
Today we're going to be making a classic cheesecake. This is just a very beginner level recipe. Very simple.
So I'm going to let John totally take the lead on this because I don't bake. He's pretty famously known for making cheesecakes. People order them. People actually buy them from him. So if you want one in your local, call him up.
We're going to get started with our crust.
I'm going to grab the crumbs.
Now on the crumbs, you can buy pre-made graham cracker crumbs for a cheesecake crust. I couldn't find them when I went to the store, so what I actually did here was I just took whole graham crackers, threw them in a food processor, and we got crumbs. You can also just put them in a baggie, beat it with a rolling pin or something like that. All right, we're gonna grab the butter and the sugar, dump those in. Mix it till we get it all nice and incorporated. All right, so we got our crumbs all mixed up. We're gonna grab our cooking spray and just hit the sides of the pan with some spray. Crust is going in. Spread it out a little bit with the spoon. Then I like to take usually a 1 cup measuring cup. Just use it to get it all nice and patted down. Work it up the sides of the pan. All right.
That's pretty, John. That is pretty.
So we got our crust all packed in there. We're gonna pop it in the oven. Now, some recipes, a lot of recipes call for just chilling the crust before you put the filling in. I always bake it, so 10 minutes. So, moving on, we're gonna move on to the stand mixer.
The KitchenAid.
The KitchenAid.
Not sponsored, but hit me up.
We have 4 blocks of 8-ounce cream cheese. All right, we're gonna let those get nice and mixed up. Slowly pour in that sugar.
Yes, sir.
We're gonna go ahead and add in our vanilla.
Vanilla going in.
Now here's where I like to take it up a couple speeds before I get the eggs in. You don't want to overbeat the eggs. 1 egg at a time. I'm letting each one mix completely before adding the next one. Now, I think I forgot to mention before we started, all of our cold ingredients were brought to room temperature before we started. Starting with the cold ingredients at room temperature definitely helps with keeping the cheesecake from cracking. So last thing we gotta do is add in our flour. You don't have to have a KitchenAid to do this, a stand mixer. You definitely do it with a hand mixer.
In fact, John only has a KitchenAid because his older brother bought him one.
And that is true.
But John always changes my oil for me.
All right, so before we add the flour, I just like to scrape down the sides a little bit. KitchenAid, they tend to leave stuff on the sides, the bottoms.
They do. That's why I don't make my mashed potatoes in there.
Looks like our crust is done. Let's get a nice golden brown.
That does look good. It smells good too.
All right, we're gonna go ahead and add our filling to our crust. We got our cheesecake in. Now, very important. To try to keep the cheesecake from cracking, very important, you gotta do a water bath. I've always done a water bath, but for years and years and years, I had trouble with the water still getting through the springform pan because it's not sealed. It snaps into place. They would tell you to wrap it with tin foil. I would do 2 layers of heavy duty tin foil and water would still get through. You end up with a soggy crust. So now what I do is I bought a cake pan that's just slightly bigger. I think it's a 10-inch cake pan. And I set the springform pan right inside of it. And then I put it in here. And then we're gonna fill this pan with water, probably about two inches up the sides of that outer cake pan. And I've had luck. My cheesecakes don't crack, and I no longer end up with that soggy crust.
Can I ask you something? Is it luck or just straight up skill?
Cheesecakes call for maybe 55 minutes, an hour. I go with this cheesecake, I do an hour and 20 minutes. It does brown up quite a bit on top, but I've had a lot of trouble before where the center was soggy and even loose sometimes when you only went with the 1 hour.
If anyone in my family is watching this, I know like my sisters try and bake a cheesecake. In the family, who makes the best cheesecake? I'm still going with John.
So far.
So far. I mean, they're trying. But if anyone else has tried anyone in my family's cheesecakes, let us know. I'm going with John.
All right, so we're gonna pop this in the oven, hour and 20 minutes, and we will be back to show you what it looks like when it's done. We have a cheesecake ready to go to show you what that final product looks like. So we're gonna snap it loose. And I'll be honest, I never wanna lift out. I always gotta go this way. We're gonna go ahead and remove that cheesecake from the base. Lay a plate on there. Flip it over. Take the parchment paper off. Pull that guy aside. Pop the base back on. Flip it over. Hope we don't stick. And we got our cheesecake.
That's pretty heavy. So it's all done. We got some John's homemade caramel sauce, which is a whole other recipe we didn't do today. Going in. Got a little crust. So much better than Cheesecake Warehouse.
But guys, this really is a very basic cheesecake recipe. You can go a lot of different directions as far as flavors go with this. All right, so this was our cheesecake recipe, classic cheesecake. Today we did a caramel sauce. A lot of times a big popular one I get is I take chocolate, I melt it before I cook it, and you swirl it into the batter. And you get a nice little bit of chocolate.
It's good.
So
some peanut butter, Reese's peanut butter cups in there too.
I have done that. There's a real basic recipe, but it's got a lot of options to go a lot of different directions. I hope you give it a try. It's definitely worth it.
Definitely worth it.
Even what it costs you to make is going to be way cheaper. Joe was at an Italian restaurant one time and they served cheesecake there. He asked what it would cost for a whole cheesecake and I think they told him $65.
Something like that, yeah.
It's crazy.
And that was a while ago, so it might even be higher than that now.
So definitely not going to cost you that to make it. Definitely is worth making it yourself.
Well, that wraps up another episode of J Bros Cooking. Remember, it's always better when you make it yourself. Don't forget to check out jbroscooking.com. And we'd love if you like and subscribe.
Hit that bell. Thank you for watching. All right. And by the magic of, what do we call it? Filmography?
Photography?
Videography?
Actually, by the magic of baking one the night before.
There it is. Don't open it.
I don't know these things. It's boiling the water. It doesn't splash up in there?
It cracks. I'm blaming it.